It's summer 2003. You walk into a movie theater not knowing what to expect, just that it's based on a theme park ride. And then the music hits. That iconic, swelling theme. A ship crests the horizon, and a man in a feathered hat stumbles across the deck like he owns the entire ocean. 23 years later, that movie is still one of the most beloved adventure films ever made. But here's the question that brought you here today. What happened to the people who made that magic? Where are they now? How have they changed? Because time, it spares no one, not even pirates. Let's count them down, from number 20 all the way to number 1. The cast of Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, Then and Now, in 2026. Released on July 9, 2003, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl was directed by Gore Verbinski and produced by Jerry Bruckheimer. At the time, Hollywood was skeptical. A pirate movie, based on a Disney ride, nobody expected it to work. And then it made over $654 million at the worldwide box office and launched one of the most successful franchises in Disney history. But beyond the numbers, it mattered. It was funny, swashbuckling, genuinely thrilling, and packed with performances that burned themselves into our collective memory. The cast went on to become some of the most recognizable names on the planet. Some soared even higher. Some stepped away from the spotlight entirely. And some, well, their journeys took roads nobody saw coming. So let's start the countdown. 20 names, 20 stories, one legendary film. Number 20, David Bailey as Cotton's Parrot. David Bailey was in his late 50s during production, a British character actor with decades of theater and television behind him. You probably remember him less for his face and more for that unforgettable parrot he voiced and performed alongside. Cotton's Parrot was a running gag and a scene stealer all at once. Now in his late 70s, Bailey has largely stepped back from active performance, but his place in pop culture history is permanently secured. Every time someone quotes "wind in the sails," that's his legacy. Small role, massive impact. Number 19, Trevor Etienne as Kohler. Trevor Etienne was around 36 during filming, a British actor born in St. Lucia with a striking screen presence. As Kohler, one of Barbassa's cursed crew, he didn't have many lines, but he didn't need them. Those hollow, skeletal eyes said everything. In the years since, Etienne has built a genuinely impressive resume, appearing in The Dark Knight Rises, Skyfall, and television series, including The Last Ship and Into the Badlands. Now in his late 50s, he's still very much active, still choosing interesting projects, and still commanding the screen whenever he appears. Number 18, Martin Kleba as Marty. Here's someone the fandom absolutely adores. Martin Kleba was 32 during production, a stuntman, actor, and one of the most genuinely enthusiastic human beings in Hollywood. His Marty was a crowd favorite across multiple Pirates films, and his energy on and off set became legendary. Now in his mid-50s, Kleba continues to work as both a performer and stunt professional. He's become a visible, positive force on social media, giving fans behind-the-scenes access to his life and career with a warmth that's completely authentic. He hasn't changed much, still full of joy, still doing what he loves. Number 17, Isaac C. Singleton Jr. as Bosun. Isaac C. Singleton Jr. was around 34 during filming, a physically commanding actor whose sheer presence made Bosun one of the more intimidating members of Barbassa's crew without him ever needing to steal a scene. In the 2 decades since, Singleton has worked steadily in film and television, popping up in projects ranging from Thor to various television appearances. Now in his mid-50s, he remains active in the industry, though he tends to keep a relatively low profile compared to some of his castmates. His face, once you recognize it, is impossible to forget. Number 16, Giles New as Murtaugh. If you don't immediately remember the name, you absolutely remember the character. Murtaugh, one half of the bumbling harbor soldier duo who somehow become a recurring comedic backbone of the franchise. Giles New was in his mid-20s during filming, and his chemistry with Angus Barnett was gold. Now in his mid-40s, New has had a solid British television and theater career, appearing in shows like Merlin and various stage productions. His comedic timing, which was evident even as a young actor in 2003, has only sharpened, a genuinely underrated piece of the Pirates puzzle. Number 15, Angus Barnett as Mulroy, the other half of that duo. Angus Barnett was also in his mid-20s during the original film and returned for multiple sequels, which tells you everything about how well those small characters landed with audiences. Now in his 40s, Barnett has built a respectable career in British television and film. He's the kind of character actor that industry insiders value enormously. Reliable, funny, versatile. You might not always know his name, but when you see him, you feel that warm flicker of recognition. That counts for something. Number 14, Mackenzie Crook as Rajetti. Oh, this one's special. Mackenzie Crook was 31 during production, already known in the UK from The Office, where he played the unforgettable Gareth Brent. His Rajetti, the scrawny, wooden-eyed, surprisingly philosophical member of the cursed crew, was a revelation of physical comedy. But here's what makes his story remarkable. Crook didn't just stay an actor, he became a creator. His BBC series Detectorists, which he wrote, directed, and starred in, is quietly considered one of the finest British comedies of the last 20 years. It won multiple BAFTAs. Critics adore it. Fans are obsessed with it. Now in his early 50s, Crook looks noticeably older, salt and pepper hair, a weathered quality that suits him beautifully, and he is arguably more respected now than he's ever been. From Rajetti's wooden eye to BAFTA-winning auteur. What a journey. Number 13, Lee Arenberg as Pintel, Crook's partner in crime. Literally. Lee Arenberg was 39 during filming and brought an anarchic, gleeful energy to Pintel that made every scene he and Crook shared feel like a comedy sketch that accidentally wandered into an adventure movie. Arenberg has worked consistently since the Pirates franchise, appearing in Once Upon a Time, The Orville, and numerous other projects. Now in his early 60s, he's still acting, still funny, and still one of those faces that makes audiences smile the moment he appears on screen. A career defined by character work done at the absolute highest level. Number 12, Jonathan Pryce as Governor Weatherby Swan. Now we're getting into the more prominent players. Jonathan Pryce was 56 during production, already a stage and screen legend with Brazil, Glengarry Glen Ross, Evita, and an Olivier Award on his resume. His Governor Swan was a perfectly calibrated performance. Pompous on the surface, genuinely loving father underneath. In the years since Pirates, Pryce has only grown in stature. His portrayal of Pope Francis in The Two Popes earned him Golden Globe and BAFTA nominations. His turn as the High Sparrow in Game of Thrones was chilling. He's also appeared in The Wife, opposite Glenn Close, in a performance of devastating quiet power. Now in his late 70s, with silver hair and the bearing of someone who has absolutely nothing left to prove, Jonathan Pryce remains one of the most consistently compelling actors working in the English language. The years have added gravitas to a face that was already remarkable. 11. Kevin McNally as Joshua Gibbs, Jack Sparrow's most loyal friend. Kevin McNally was 48 during filming, a dependable, warm British actor whose chemistry with Johnny Depp anchored the emotional heart of the franchise in ways that often went underappreciated. McNally appeared in all 5 Pirates films, which is a testament to how essential Gibbs became to the story. Beyond the franchise, he's worked in Downton Abbey, National Treasure, Edge of History, and various British television productions. Now in his late 60s, McNally looks exactly like you'd want Gibbs to look in retirement. A little grayer, a little more weathered, but with those same warm, trustworthy eyes. He's continued working steadily and remains one of the most beloved supporting players from the entire franchise. Number 10, Jack Davenport as Commodore James Norrington. Here's a name that deserves way more recognition. Jack Davenport was 30 during production, young, impossibly handsome in that angular, aristocratic British way, and his Norrington was genuinely compelling. He wasn't a villain. He was a man in love, bound by duty, doing what he believed was right. That complexity made him one of the most interesting characters in the film. Since Pirates, Davenport has had a rich career. Smash on NBC, Breathless, The Talented Mr. Ripley, and more recently continued television work in both British and American productions. Now in his early 50s, Davenport has grown into one of those quietly distinguished-looking men that the British acting world seems to produce with alarming regularity. He deserves a massive comeback role, and frankly, audiences would be here for it. Number 9. Greg Ellis as Groves. Greg Ellis appeared in 3 Pirates films as the loyal Lieutenant Groves, and he brought a naturalistic quality to what could have been a throwaway role. He was in his early 30s during production, a British actor who built his career across film, television, and extensive voice work in video games. Ellis has become particularly prolific in the voice acting world, lending his voice to major gaming franchises and animated series. His career trajectory since Pirates represents something fascinating, a pivot toward a medium that has absolutely exploded in cultural relevance. Now in his early 50s, Ellis is busier than ever. Number 8, Zoe Saldana as Anna Maria. Hold on. Yes, that's Zoe Saldana. She was 24 during production and played Anna Maria, the fierce boat-owning pirate who Will Turner recruits, one of the film's few female characters with actual agency and attitude. It was a relatively small role, but she made every second count. What happened next? Well, Avatar, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers Endgame, Colombiana. She became one of the highest-grossing actresses in Hollywood history, a record holder, no less. Avatar: The Way of Water pushed the original Avatar's franchise gross into the stratosphere. Now in her mid-40s, Saldana has transformed beautifully, a mother of 3, a powerhouse producer, and an actress who has appeared in more billion-dollar films than arguably anyone alive. Looking back at her in Pirates is like watching the first chord of a symphony that went on to fill stadiums. Number 7, Rush, 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 Jeffrey Rush as Captain Hector Barbassa. Slight pause for effect. Ladies and gentlemen, one of cinema's great villains. Jeffrey Rush was 51 during production, an Oscar winner already, Shine 1997, and he brought a theatrical, almost operatic quality to Barbassa that elevated the entire film. That scene at the dinner table with Elizabeth, that monologue about the curse, pure, magnificent craft. Rush went on to reprise Barbassa across all 5 films, and each time he found new depths in the character. Beyond Pirates, he's appeared in The King's Speech, The Best Offer, and continued his celebrated stage career. Now in his early 70s, Rush has the magnificent, leonine look of a man who has earned every line on his face. His career remains one of the most decorated in Australian film history, and Barbassa, the apple-eating, monkey-carrying, gloriously theatrical villain, is one of the most iconic characters he's ever played. Number 6, Orlando Bloom as Will Turner. Will Turner was the heartthrob of the franchise. Orlando Bloom was 25 during filming, fresh off the Lord of the Rings trilogy, where he'd already become a global phenomenon as Legolas, and he brought a sincerity and physicality to Will that made audiences genuinely root for him. He reprised the role in Dead Men Tell No Tales 2017 after a long absence, and the reunion with fans was emotional. Beyond Pirates, Bloom has worked in Troy, Kingdom of Heaven, Zulu, and various television projects including Carnival Row on Amazon. Now in his late 30s, Bloom has matured in a way that suits him remarkably well. He looks less like a storybook hero and more like a man, a father, a partner to Katy Perry, someone who seems to have found genuine peace in the life he's built. The boyish quality is still there, but there's weight behind the eyes now. Life has touched him, and it shows in the best possible way. Number 5, Keira Knightley as Elizabeth Swann. She was 17 during the early stages of production. 17. And she held her own opposite 2 of the most charismatic actors on the planet. Keira Knightley was barely known when Pirates cast her. Her breakthrough was Bend It Like Beckham, released the same year. But after The Black Pearl sailed into theaters, she was suddenly everywhere. Love Actually followed. Then Pride and Prejudice, which earned her an Oscar nomination at just 20 years old. Then Atonement, The Imitation Game, the Silk franchise. Now in her early 40s, Knightley has become one of the most respected actresses of her generation. Elegant, precise, and quietly fierce. She's been selective with her work in recent years, focusing on projects that genuinely excite her rather than chasing franchise glory. Her face has changed. She looks like a woman now in a way that feels earned and powerful, and her talent has only deepened with time. Going back and watching Elizabeth Swann stand on that cliff and refuse to be rescued, that wasn't just a character, that was a preview of what Keira Knightley would become. Number 4, Stellan Skarsgård as Bootstrap Bill Turner. A brief but powerful presence in the first film, Stellan Skarsgård was 51 during production, already a titan of European and Hollywood cinema, with Good Will Hunting, Breaking the Waves, and the Mamma Mia film soon to follow. He returned in the sequels in increasingly dramatic fashion, and his bootstrap Bill arc became one of the saga's most emotionally resonant threads. But Skarsgård's career since Pirates? Extraordinary. Thor and its sequels as Dr. Erik Selvig, Avengers, Dune, Chernobyl, the HBO miniseries, in which his performance as Legasov is simply devastating. Andor, the Disney Plus Star Wars series, where he delivers some of the most quietly powerful work of his career. Now in his early 70s, Skarsgård has aged with the distinguished authority of someone who has never once phoned it in, father to 8 children, including Alexander, Bill, and Gustav. All actors, he has built a family dynasty that rivals the Redgraves. One of the finest character actors of the last 40 years, full stop. Number 3. Bill Nighy as Davy Jones. He wasn't in the first film, but he was so transformative in the sequels that it would be wrong to leave him off this list. Bill Nighy was 53 when he filmed Dead Man's Chest, almost entirely in a performance capture suit, his face replaced by a digital squid beard and tentacles, and somehow, he made Davy Jones one of the most emotionally complex villains in blockbuster history. That scene with the music box. That scene. If you know. Since Pirates, Nighy has delivered some of the most acclaimed work of his career. About Time. Living, the 22 Kazuo Ishiguro adaptation, for which he received his first Academy Award nomination. At 72 years old, he was finally nominated for an Oscar, and the industry treated it as the overdue recognition of a man who'd quietly been one of Britain's greatest actors for decades. Now in his mid-70s, Bill Nighy looks exactly like you'd want Bill Nighy to look. Angular, elegant, impossibly cool, with that characteristic stillness that makes every word he speaks feel significant. A legend. A genuine legend. Number 2, Johnny Depp as Captain Jack Sparrow. What is there left to say? Johnny Depp was 39 during production, and he arrived on set with a fully formed, completely unexpected, slightly alarming character that no one at Disney quite knew what to do with. The executives reportedly panicked during early screenings. Was he drunk? Was this right? It was right. It was more than right. It was one of the most iconic performances in blockbuster history. Jack Sparrow became a Halloween costume, a theme park character, a cultural shorthand for charismatic roguery. Depp received an Academy Award nomination for the role, an almost unheard-of recognition for a summer blockbuster performance. In the years since, Depp's career went through profound upheaval, years of legal battles and public controversy that reshaped his professional life significantly. But in 2023, he returned to Cannes, his first major European red carpet in years, directing and starring in Jean du Barry, a French period film about the last mistress of Louis XV. The reception was extraordinary. A standing ovation, tears, a public signaling that audiences were ready to engage with his work again. Now in his early 60s, Depp looks different, older, softer, with the look of a man who has lived through extraordinary storms and come out the other side. Whether Jack Sparrow ever returns is one of Hollywood's great unanswered questions. But what he built with that character, the creativity, the commitment, the sheer bravado of the performance, that doesn't get undone. It's permanent. Number 1. And finally, the one you've been waiting for. Number 1. Johnny Depp? No. Actually, number 1, the franchise itself, the legacy, the entire cast together. Here's the truth. There is no single number 1. Because the magic of Pirates of the Caribbean was never one person. It was the collision of all of them. A 17-year-old Keira Knightley, a 25-year-old Orlando Bloom, Jeffrey Rush at the height of his theatrical powers, a young Zoe Saldana before anyone knew what she'd become, Johnny Depp swaggering through every scene like he invented the concept of a movie star, Bill Nighy in a motion capture suit making you cry over a digital squid. That is what cinema is. That is what this film was. You know what gets me every time I go back and watch The Curse of the Black Pearl? Everyone looks so young. Not just the actors, though yes, that too. But the world looks young. That kind of movie, that unapologetically fun, swashbuckling, completely committed adventure, it feels like something from a different era. And in a way, it was. 23 years have passed. The people who sat in those theater seats in 2003 have grown up, started families, lost people they loved, found new ones. The actors on screen have won Oscars, raised children, gone through everything life throws at you, and kept working. That's the beautiful, slightly heartbreaking thing about movies. They freeze a moment. Keira Knightley will always be 17 on that cliff. Orlando Bloom will always be 25, sword in hand. Johnny Depp will always be stumbling off that sinking boat with that impossible grin. Time changes everyone, but the best stories, they stay. So here's my question for you. Drop it in the comments right now. Which cast member surprised you the most? Whose journey since 2003 blew you away? I genuinely want to know. And if you enjoyed this video, if it made you feel even a fraction of that 2003 magic, please hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel more than you know. Subscribe if you're new here, because we do this every week. Deep dives into the casts, careers, and legacies of the films that shaped us.